Question. Why aren't we afraid of sunsets? I know that feels a bit like a strange question, but seriously, shouldn't we be afraid of sunsets? I mean, think about it. Our primitive ancestors, the cavemen, the hunter-gatherers, the primates with just a few pointy sticks to separate them from the rest of the animal kingdom. Shouldn't they have come to fear the sunset? We're scared of the dark. We're afraid of walking alone at night, even now in the modern world. Why? Well, we had a higher chance of dying back in our primitive days at night. We don't have great night vision as a species, but a lot of our natural predators do, lions and leopards and shit. So even now, tens of thousands of years later, we are scared of that which goes bump in the night. It's hardwired into our biology, even if we don't need it to be anymore. So, shouldn't we fear sunsets for the same reason? I mean, for our ancestors, sunsets meant just a few minutes before nighttime, a few minutes before hours of heightened danger, during which time it would be useful to be afraid. Shouldn't evolution therefore have naturally selected for people terrified of sunsets?
You look different.
For people who see the sun dipping below the horizon and hide. So why didn't it? Why did evolution select for people who instead find the sunset beautiful? Well, there are a few possibilities here. Maybe a fear of sunsets didn't significantly increase your chances of survival. So even though it would marginally improve your chances, it wasn't enough to tip the scales. But I'm not satisfied by that answer. I mean, evolution, given enough time at least, will select for the most seemingly arbitrary, ridiculous things for the tiniest biological advantage. I mean, our skin pruning when we get wet for too long, that's so that we can have a slightly better grip on things when we're submerged in water. How much of a biological advantage could that have possibly been? How many people were really dying over the years because their skin wasn't pruning enough when they got wet? So that seems to indicate that if a fear of sunsets had why do I keep saying it that way? So that seems to indicate that if a fear of sunsets had even slightly increased our chances of survival, we would have been afraid of sunsets. Here's another thought. Maybe sunsets just look too similar to sunrises for us to meaningfully distinguish between the two. And any fear of sunsets, with the dangerous nighttime they brought with them, would be offset by the relief of seeing a sunrise and the hours of relative safety in the daylight they brought with them. But that answer doesn't quite do it for me either. Sunrises and sunsets, as you may have noticed, do look significantly different. Sunsets produce a wider range of deeper colors, while sunrises tend to be simpler but brighter. And while that difference may seem minute, evolution, once again, has a way of accounting for even these tiny differences given enough time. It would be totally feasible for us to develop a fear of sunsets without that creating a fear of sunrises as well. Now, here is where we get into some actually interesting territory. Perhaps our love of sunsets speaks to some innate and objective beauty. Perhaps sunsets are truly fundamentally beautiful, and any small biological tendency for us to come to fear them is offset by that innate wonder. You laughing at the TikTok or me?
TikTok.
Okay.
No, not you.
I thought Pasquale was laughing at me. That little bitch. Pasquale, would you like a cameo?
Nah, in every video. No cameo. No.
You heard it, folks. Pasquale doesn't love you. I'd like to see some rioting in the comment section. I happen to really like this theory. I really like the idea that there are some things that truly are just beautiful. An alien from a subterranean world whose species has never really seen a sunset before would be just as awestruck by the sight of our sun, that brilliant amber orb, sinking into the horizon in a slow explosion of reds and crimsons, fading to oranges and maroons, then to pinks and deep purples, and finally to velvety black. And we don't have to look any further than that. But sadly, I don't think that's the answer either.
Fuck you, there's no objective beauty.
What the fuck? Oh my god. No, fuck off. Although poetic, and I'm a sucker for poetry, I don't believe in any objective beauty. I do have one more idea though. What if we're missing something? A piece to this puzzle that would suddenly make everything clear. What if a love of sunsets could be biologically advantageous in some other way that outweighs the advantages of the fear? What if humans just love sunsets because we love being around people who love sunsets? Now, that sounds contrived as fuck, but I swear, hear me out. What if it's not just sunsets? What if we love all natural beauty, all art and music and beautiful food and each other and everything else we can possibly love because it's fun to be around people who love these things? Watching a sunset with someone else makes us feel less alone. It makes us feel like we're a part of something greater than ourselves, and it makes us want to live. And we're more likely to
Fuck the shit out of a person like that and end up with an unwanted pregnancy in a state where abortions are heavily restricted, and now we have a kid and we pass our genes on to that kid, and oh shit, now the little fucker likes sunsets too.
Or, in purely biological terms, we're more likely to mate with someone who loves more easily. So maybe there were humans who feared the sunset, and maybe they even had a better chance of living to old age. But maybe they were also lonelier, sadder, more cynical, and less likely to mate. So they died, old and afraid and alone. And those people who dared to see the beauty in the sunsets, something which should have been a warning sign reading "Danger, night approaching," were the ones who ended up with those unwanted pregnancies. They were the humans who wanted to see the good in a cruel and hostile world, not to live in constant fear of the dark and uncertain future, but to find comfort in the spectacular present. They were the humans who became our ancestors. And isn't that kind of magical?